Call this meeting to order for the public hearing bylaw 2025-2022 for June 13th, 2022. It's 7:02 p.m. First, we have supporting documentation for bylaw 2025-2022, being a zoning bylaw amendment to add commercial school as a conditional use to the CMU zone. Current bulk regulations are to be utilized for all future developments. Go ahead.
Sure. We'll have our director give an overview of the public hearing information.
Yeah, so this relates to a developer who has optioned a piece of property on Thompson Drive South. Their development that they're looking to build will house a commercial school. That property sits within the CMU zoning district. Unfortunately, the CMU, other commercial areas allow for a commercial school as part of their use categories. CMU does not. So this zoning bylaw amendment is to add commercial school to the CMU zoning criteria as conditional use. First reading of the bylaw occurred on May the 9th, and to date there have been no objections received by the development department on this.
Thank you, Bob.
So now just to note that it would be the public's opportunity to come forward, discuss this and say if they're for or against.
Do we have anybody wishing to discuss in favor or opposed? Again, second time. Does anyone have any comments for in favor or opposed to the bylaw? And third time. Does anybody have any comments for or against the bylaw? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Is that it? Call for adjournment. Okay, call for adjournment. Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you, Councilor Ellsworth and Councilor Roberto. All in favor? Yeah. Didn't see any hands there. Okay, on to the second variation order, June 13th, 2022, variation order number 1001-22. Okay, I've called this meeting order. Sorry. That's supporting material for variation order number 1001-22. To decrease the principal building built within the required yard setbacks from 7.5 meters to 2.66 meters in a single detached residential zone. Again?
Yeah, we'll go to the director.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the variance was submitted again by the developer. This is a new build on Hamley. Hamley is in the new area by Smith Crescent, Espins, down in that area. There are two new homes being constructed there. This one at 32 Hamley requires a setback as per the plan that they have got for the home, puts it within the back requirements for 8.7 feet versus 25 feet. As per the Planning Act, this variance was posted, the property was posted. Neighboring residences or property owners within 100 meters were provided with notice of the variance. All utilities were notified, and again, to date, no objections were received by the planning on this variance.
Thank you, Director Sprott. Okay. We have anybody from the public wishes to discuss, support, or object to the variance? Does anybody have any support or wish to discuss support or objection to this variance? Third time. Does anybody have any comments or in support or objections? See none. for adjournment, the variance order. Council Valentino. Councilmember, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the regular meeting of council. Call the meeting to order. Wish to recognize that we are in Treaty 5 territory, traditional land of the Nissetuweshik Cree Nation, and the homeland of the Métis people, and we are all Métis people. Can I have approval of the agenda? Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor Tom?
I could add to the agenda. In the past week, we've done a recognition in the community. I'd just like to raise that in council, that those were there due for Billy Joe Thompson. It's yours. I'd just like to, in council, give kudos to Billy Joe Thompson. The end of the meeting is fine, if that's okay.
Is there any objection to that, or do we already with that? Yeah. We'll make that, that 8.
7.6.
7.6 is for bylaws. It would have to be a number 8. And 9 would have to be an adjournment. So you need a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, can I have a motion to amend the agenda? Councilor Feldman, yeah, Councilmember. All in favor?
The agenda.
And we need approval of the agenda. Okay, Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor Feldman, all in favor? Everybody? Okay, moving on to 4, community comments and feedback.
Ron Matichuk, 20 Ash Street. I have a few questions here tonight, starting with, you have a procurement policy resolution tonight. And in that, it mentions the New West trade agreement. Can you tell me how that benefits Thompson?
As a city is an entity under the Municipal Act, we're subject to the rules that apply to the province. The province is treaty to the Northwest Free Trade Agreement and multiple other free trade agreements between the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Europe. So all of our procurement policy must be compliant with those international trade agreements because we fall under their jurisdiction.
Okay, with all the money that's going to be spent on road renewal and water renewal, is there anything that can be done to make sure some of that money stays in Thompson instead of the usual, we say goodbye to our money and off to Winnipeg, usually it goes?
The agreements that were signed between the city of Thompson, Canada, and Manitoba require that they tenders be posted on MERCS or similar open tendering, which gives you opportunity for anyone to bid on that work.
But nothing pertaining to local.
Local preference is illegal under the agreements.
Yeah, that's why I asked, well, what's the benefit? I know what the problem is. Next, in the financial plan, the CDC is getting $226,000. What is expected for that money out of them?
The financial plan was discussed at the last hearing of council. So there was a hearing last week that was discussed, and that was the opportunity for the public to bring forward those objections.
Okay, it's in the budget and that's tonight, the levy. That's what
Just
dictates
following
our
the bylaw.
taxes. Okay, you guys will be talking about the levy because second and third reading is here tonight. And we'll hear over and over, I'm sure, about little or no impact. Fact is, the money's been taken from us in advance over the years, and you guys put it away. So there is an impact. I just want to know we've been impacted already on this. The facts are, in the 4 years of this term, it's an average of 4.5% increase on the mill rate. That's the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the community? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to adoption of minutes, section 5. Regular meeting of council. You just did the resolution number 2022-107, moved by Councilor Wong, seconded by Councilor Valentino. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held in council chambers, city hall, Thompson, Manitoba, on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022, be adopted as circulated. Questions or comments? Councilor Wong, do you have anything? No further. Thanks. Okay. Okay. All those in favor? On TV, TV. Very much. 5.2, committee of the whole, resolution 2022-108, moved by Councilor Cotton, seconded by Councilor Deputy Mayor Lindmark. Be it resolved that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held in council chamber, city hall, Thompson, Manitoba, on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, be adopted as circulated. Anyone have any comments, questions? We just have a chance to review them. Councilor Cotton. Okay, call for question. All those in favor? Unanimous. Section 5.2.1, public hearing for financial plan, June 9th, 2022. Resolution number 2022-109, moved by Councilor Ellsworth, seconded by Mayor Lundmark. Be it resolved that the minutes of the public hearing for 2022 financial plan held in council chambers, city hall, Thompson, Manitoba, on Thursday, June 9th, 2022, be adopted as circulated. Councilor Ellsworth? Good. Good. Anybody else have anything? All those,
Just want to thank those from the public that came. Nice to see more people. Definitely those who came. Thank you.
stay in order. Questions, call for the question. All those in favor? Got a resolution 6.1. Resolution 2022-110, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Whereas the city of Thompson will receive a variation order application number 1001-22-32 Hamley Road, Lot 8, Block 2, Plan 34932 PLTO. The follow to decrease the principal building built within the required rear yard setbacks from 7.5 meters to 2.66 meters in a single detached residential zone R1. And whereas under the provisions of the Planning Act, the public hearing has been held to hear representations for and or against the variation order. Now therefore be resolved that council approve variation order number 1001-22-32 Hamley Road. Councilor Valentino.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting this in looking at this lot 8. It's on the corner lot, so it's common that the front is less than the back because it kind of spreads out. And this particular applicant also had developments 20 years ago on Smith Street, believe it or not, that long. And there was never any issues or anybody that opposed variances at that time. So in keeping with this and seeing that on the corner like that, I'll definitely be supporting it. Thank you.
Question for the administration. On the map, it does appear as though that lot is not tree line. Can you confirm?
That lot is not, well, currently it is tree line, but there is a block survey behind it, which is the wraparound of Smith Crescent, which is surveyed but not yet developed. So currently tree line, but at some point could potentially be a block.
Just a comment, if I could, Deputy Mayor. So I normally would have zero objection to this. I still don't, I'll support this, but I am concerned. We haven't implemented the fire safe or fire smart program back there yet. And the 8-foot setback from the property line that's treed would be concerning for me. It would be my recommendation or for what it's worth, that someone look into that, and ensure that area gets cleared so that there's a greater setback from the properties. Thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't have a concern, but I just do have a question about this property. Is it the property building will be exits with the percentage of the use of land of this property? The percentage of usage.
Yeah, every other requirement of the zone is within compliance except for the rear setback. So yeah, it meets the property coverage.
So it will exceed the percentage of usage based on the requirement. Oh, sorry.
Exceed?
Oh, yeah.
No, what he's saying is it meets the bylaw requirements.
Okay.
Yeah. Every other bylaw requirement is met except for that rear yard setback.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Now to resolution to approve the amended procurement policy. Which is right here, resolution number 2022-111. Moved by Councilor Collin, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Be it resolved that council approve the amended procurement policy. Council Collin, what do you want? Let's go to administration. Okay, go to administration.
Yes, the council requested the update of the current procurement policy to update the current rules. Due to the legalities of our policy, the lawyers have drafted that copy for council to consider. The main changes were that it ensured that the procurement policy reflects the requirements of the U.S. Trade Partnership Agreement. Increase the value of the tendering from 15,000 to 50,000. Changing the parameters that require council approval. Purchasing for items up to $1,000. Should not require more than one quote due to time value for that time value of money for that time spent. Getting more than one quote for $1,000. And then sale of surplus assets without another option.
Councilor Collin. First up.
Yeah, two quick questions. So this procurement is only for goods or is it also for services? So if we currently, and I'm thinking back to Mr. Ivinson's comments a couple of weeks ago, if we currently have service provision that's not under contract, is that going to be addressed and remain consistent with this? Last, it's that contract, that specific contract. Is there one existing for back truck services, or is that still something that needs to be fixed?
The standing purchase order.
Yeah, study for certain.
Next questions? Councilor Valentino.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to see this come back. This has been years in trying to get this revised. I certainly like the increase in value for tendering and the purchasing for items up to $1,000. When we first asked for this, it was to help us to be more efficient in departments, that hopefully the efficiency will help us save time and will save soft dollars. My one question is, what would be an example of a surplus asset that we would sell on an online auction?
But that we no longer use, whether it's a truck that is no longer in service, that we produce in one year, so we actually sell that. Process for some of it is no longer used. The purpose that it was purchased, but now
That's all. So would that also entitle, we've talked about before having, I guess, a garage sale or the cleanup of public works yard, would that be something that could go through this procurement policy now? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting this.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Wong?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess it's a lot of cleanup now for procurement policy, but one thing I don't like about the policy is like we have to sign those unfair agreement to me. It's not benefit my constituents, especially Thompson. We don't have enough support local business to grow to the level that we can go out and compete with others. So it's a disadvantage, in my opinion, with this new procurement policy. And I understand what you just explained to the public about this. You just align with the provincial and the federal procurement policy. But somehow I think as a local official, elected official, we could do something above and beyond about that, just to help out to make the Thompson a better place for investment. Otherwise, we have so much a disadvantage because living up north for transportation and so much of others disadvantage. Other than that, I think the cleanup is needed to be, and it's hard for me to support based on that factor. Otherwise, it's not a bad policy at all. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Can I go to administration first?
Yeah, just to note that, Council, yeah, we understand your concern. Went to a few of the training sessions when I was at FCM, where they reinforced some of those international trade agreements, but the city still does do quite a bit of procurement locally. It's really when you get to the really large tenders that it has to go that public. But often a lot of the purchasing can be done.
Councilor Ellsworth?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ludmer. Again, I'm not going to reiterate everything the other councilors said, but in certainly the first part, not unlike some of the other councilors, I wish we could do more in the community. But in order to change this new West Partnership Trade Agreement, we have to lobby the government. That's the reality of it. We have to go and lobby. We fall under its legality. We need more of the business that the city has to stay in Thompson. So that's one way we can do it. And I remember many a time sitting in this chamber at a committee meeting when we had equipment that was down for a long time because we couldn't get the second and the third quote for $1,000. So that's a nice change and it was costing us money because of that. So I'll certainly be supporting the changes. Thank you.
Comments? Oh, Councilor Collins?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The last comment I have on here is the city at one time was looking to provide advantage to First Nation bidders and projects. I don't recall exactly what the details of that were, but I'm curious to find out what the implications of this will be on Indigenous procurement.
Yeah, there's no change under this one. If council wishes, the administration can pursue that. There's certain, at least one government department of the province that has specific Indigenous procurement policies that are included in their procurement. This one does not include that this time.
With the Aboriginal Court in place, why wouldn't we have looked at that?
This is taken from direction from council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? I'll make a quick comment myself. Working with the province in my past, I did bring these questions forward when I was working for a department within Manitoba, and that was an issue for some of our smaller communities up here that wanted to purchase locally and or purchase from within the northern region. It was a battle that I lost. It's not like you can change that free trade agreement too quickly or make any headway, but I still hope that we can lobby for that change. The advantage that I was told at the time to local contractors and employers was that they can cut on the transportation costs, so maybe their tenders would be slightly smaller, right? But that was the only really advantage that a local investor and contractor had, that that I was able to get out and clear. And it's they're pill to swallow when they tell you that, especially when you're contracting up here. And I had a stepfather that was dealing with that kind of thing with Manitoba Highways at the time. Yeah. Thank you, that was all. Ask for vote now. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Passed. Thank you. Then moving on to 6.3. We should approve the financial plan. Resolution number 2022-112, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Be it resolved that council approve the 2022 financial plan. Councilor, sorry, go to administration. Oh, sorry. Jenny.
So public hearing was held on June the 9th. 4 people spoke in favor at that meeting and 2 were opposed. The levy rate for 2022 remains the same for the city of Thompson levies. The school district has increased lately and the DSL has decreased lately, so there's a small increase of 0.2% for residential properties and a small decrease for commercial properties.
Councilor Valentino.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Lindberg. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be supporting this financial plan this year. I think it's has a lot of good things in it and a lot of positive movement for our city and moving our city forward. I think that I've always agreed on that there should be increases to keep pace with inflation. However, I know in the past few years, going through the pandemic, we did have increases when a lot of municipalities didn't. So I'm fine with the keeping it the same this year, the mill rate, and a 0 increase on the city side. I think that this financial plan addresses some pretty exciting things for the city, especially I think the amount of dollars we have to put in, $1 and we're getting matched $5 for grant is almost unheard of, that kind of return on our money. So I definitely look forward to supporting this and moving this forward. I did do some work with some of the other municipalities around the province, and everybody is having huge increases this year. Portage is at 5%, Morton is at 3%, Wink is at 6.7%, Selkirk is at 2.8%, and the Paws at 1.97%. I think it's important to know that for the year. And I think we really learned that as a mayor and council, when your grants come in or when your grants don't come in, you have to just look at the year that you're dealing with. Is it good to have some long-term capital planning? Absolutely. But I think that the year to year is definitely how these need to be looked at, especially with when you're applying for so many grants as we have. I think it's important for the public to understand the debenture page. I think that debentures are a huge investment, and they are an investment for our people and for our city. And I think that's why past mayor and council, I think Mayor Johnson was the reason why we have our new TRCC with that debenture. So I think I look at it as an investment in our city to debenture. Want to sit still and say no to everything, we really won't grow. So we need to grow, we need to move forward. We are a community that's on the rise with a lot of activity. We see that in our building permits. We see on new developments today in the public hearing. We saw the grand opening of the Jumpstart Park this morning. That faced some negativity last year at this time. And it's been, in my opinion, nothing but a huge success. Is it solving all of our issues with youth? No, but is it helping? I think it is. I think we have a lot of challenges with the rising costs of our police. I think that this mayor and council has addressed that. The public needs to know that we're continuing to work on that and lobby that moving forward. If you look at other financial plans across the province, they're saying all of their police costs. I think we're taking a proactive approach as a mayor and council. We're addressing that as soon as we can, and we're lobbying hard on that. So I'll leave my comments to the rest of our colleagues, but I'll definitely be supporting this. I think it's good news, and I appreciate the work that administration did and to the public that showed up, as Councillor Fountain commented earlier. Thank you.
Mayor Smoot. Mayor Smoot.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. I too think it definitely was well worked on plan. Not all of us agree with no tax increase, but as a council as a whole, that is what the outcome was. And as Councillor Valentino has said, we have worked very hard with grants and other pots of money this year, and I do think it is doable, especially for 1 year. And as with the next council, starting in November, they will have their own plans and work on their own financial plan. So I definitely thank everybody for the hard work that's gone into this, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Councilor McMurray. Oh. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor Lamar. As Councillor Fountain noted, I'd also like to thank the members from the public that attended the hearing on Thursday last week. A couple of highlights for me are the maintenance of the residential mill rate at 2021 levels. And as was noted in the plan, this represents about a $7 increase annually for a property of 175,000. So at 58 cents a month, I think very affordable. And I'd like to say, as Councillor Valentino mentioned as well, that we did increase taxes through the pandemic and this term. So this was certainly something that was nice to do now that we feel like some of those ICE costs and the protective services costs, maybe the horizons may be longer, or we might be a little more in hand than we were thinking at this time last year. Also, council maintains the fees and fines at 2021 levels. I think a big thing that was noted as well, of the almost $56 million budget, 36% is going to be provided by the federal and provincial governments from grants. To touch on the protective services costs, as Councillor Valentino had mentioned, that they are increasing, and they certainly represent a large portion of our budget. I'd say council and administration have, and they continue to work to demonstrate to the province and the feds and to lobby to that effect that these costs are in a number of ways representative of regional issues, and that is something that we need to share amongst the levels of government. And finally, I'd like to touch on the 9.2 million debenture that's going to be set aside pending the approval of the plan for the city's portion of a new pool. Great work to our administration, mayor and council to secure that grant and possibly permit this project to move forward to the next stage. At the public hearing, there was some support, but there was also some concerns over costs, overtures, possibly inflation, market volatility, and some of those issues. I'd say there's no doubt those are real concerns in any project, but notably with the $24 million project, that's going to be an issue. For me, I'd like to point out that if we're proponents of an old pool or a new pool, just a pool for Thompson, that I would argue that those forces would be applicable to any retrofit or new design as well. So there's going to be some volatility and some fluctuating there regardless. So just in closing, I'd like to wrap up and say that to me, this financial plan signals a lot of great things coming to our city, and that with council's commitment to maintain the property tax levels at last year's rate, I will be in support of this tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. I'm not going to sit here and reiterate everything that's been said, for sure. I want away from the last meeting we had, I voted against it. I want to talk to the public. I have talked to the public. I've had some good discussions, whether it be about the swimming pool, whether it be about the tax. And I'm going to give my opinion or how I feel based on the public. Also, by the way, before I go on, I asked questions to the Minister of Municipality, Eileen Clark, this last week, and some of the issues that we need to address, and police, people have brought up about the policing. I'm disappointed, and I'm good at the same time. I'm disappointed because we, mayor and council, should have gave this break last year when we were going through a pandemic, and we were given money from a provincial government that could have easily swallowed up 2% taxes, easily. And I remember speaking almost 20 minutes overall on this very subject. At the time, we wouldn't have needed to touch any debentures. We had the money. We spent very little out of that money. We put it in reserves and other things at that time. So that was a great disappointment for me as one councillor from last year. This year we come in, I said, look, we need to get to zero. I'm okay with getting to zero. But we did have to go and touch debentures at 233,000, which is like 2%. As someone that also works with finance, that money's going to have to come from somewhere next year. So you've taken it out. You've covered it off, the 2%. I don't think that we need to increase taxes. We need to get the government to do their fair share. And the questions, and I'll tell the public, I asked to Minister Clark just last week. We are losing millions and millions and millions of dollars of VLTs, and the late Judy used to often talk about this, that don't come back to our community, but helps to literally destroy it. We're losing probably $100 million in revenues from the liquor store. And what do we get? We get about $200,000 back to this city to help towards rising police costs, that there's no way that the public will ever keep up with it, the trend that we are facing. And today, if you haven't noticed, gas has gone up to 207. Thompsonite certainly needs a break like the rest of the country. Now, Councilor Valentino talked about the other towns, and there's no doubt about it, they're going to have to raise taxes in some way. But I want you to know, I represent Thompson, and I feel for the rest of the province, but I represent Thompson, I represent the people. What I got from people this week, they want a swimming pool. Let's be very clear about that. They want a swimming pool. Regardless of how we feel in this chamber, we make the decision going forward, they want a swimming pool. That's what the public has told me. I've talked to families, I've talked to seniors, I've talked to teenagers, and I've talked to people with children, and are really at home, that their children haven't learned to swim yet, less than 5 years old. And I will tell you, my 4 children learned all to swim at the pool. So you might think I'm giving a mixed message. I'm not. I listen to the people who put me in this chair. That's who put me here. And tonight, because of my conscience, because of what I've heard the people say in Thompson, I will support the budget because I have to. And zero, in fact, I think we could have probably even done a little bit better. I do not like the fact that we had to use the debenture. I think the debenture can be used for other things. But going forward, I will close by saying this, and there'll be people taking offense to it, and I'm okay with that. And I believe we're getting zero budget because it's election year, and I think that's wrong. It's wrong every way you look at it. We should be striving to get to zero no matter what. There is times that we will have to increase taxes to meet the needs of this community, but we should be able to put that on the table, debate it, look at it, and if that's what's needed, people have no issue paying taxes if they're getting the services for it. So thank you, and that'll be the end of my remarks.
Councilor Wong.
Thank you. I'm not going to spend too much time to debate this financial plan. I think overall it's a great plan. For some reason that it's still missing something. So I'm going to reserve my comment later on to talk about it. So I just ask for a comment. Thank you.
Anything else? Councilor Powell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mark. So 0, 2%, 1.6, whatever it is, those are numbers. And I agree with most of what's been said here tonight. I don't believe 0 is the number. I believe that it's not unusual or not unreasonable for a city to increase taxes in line with inflation. This year's inflation is extremely high, and I wouldn't expect that we increase up to that inflation. with the numbers in mind, they're just numbers and they have very little long-term impact on people. And I'm more concerned when I look at this budget and the budgets that we've done in the past about what this city looks like in 10 to 15 years. And I think I've been very consistent about what everything I've said about the way we spend money in this community, and that I'm concerned about the amount of liabilities the city has. I'm concerned about those liabilities and that we are continually adding new infrastructure. Meanwhile, we're keeping and trying to maintain old infrastructure. This plan doesn't address that. We're currently looking at taxes only making up 20% of the budget this year. 50% of the revenue for this year's budget comes from other forms of government through grants. These things are not sustainable long-term. And of course, I can't complain about a 1 to 5 turnover on grants. That's a no-brainer. The city of Thompson has to do that. But I am concerned about the amount of overhead we take on in terms of staff and our CMP costs. In the past, that eats up the entire level of taxation the city brings in. The city's not addressed that. I don't believe that we've had the level of restructuring that's necessary. I don't believe we've looked at our infrastructure to really put in a plan that's long-term sustainable. For those reasons, looking forward into the future for the city of Thompson, I don't believe we've hit the mark with this, despite 0 being a great number. I think we can all celebrate 0, and kudos to everyone who put that together. I don't think that that is wasted time. But I'm going to defer in how I look at this. And in the long term, I don't think we've done the city of Thompson a favor with this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make a few comments. Just appreciate all the work that was put into the financial plan this year. See that we put time and effort into the assets management. Big bonus from Valley to help us with that. And our staff is working towards getting that laid out and making it easier, more manageable to maintain some of our assets that we do have in the city. We know that the infrastructure is in some cases 60 or 70 years old, and looking forward to this ISEP grant assisting us with helping renew some of that infrastructure so it doesn't have to be worked on so frequently in an emergency basis. It's a long time coming with that asset management plan. I'm hoping that that will really help future councils with this budget. I hope that becomes part of the budget actually. I'll be supporting this as well. And does anyone have any other comments or a call for question? Okay, in a recorded vote. All those in favor? Councilor Valentino, Councilor Peru, Mayor Swoop, I can't see if you. Are you in favor? Councilor Lundmark, Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor Murdo. And I can't see if Mayor Swoop is for or against. Are you for?
Mayor Smook, the chair is asking if you're for or against.
Can't hear us. Mayor Swoop?
Hello?
Are you for or against?
The chair has asked if you're for or against the budget.
It's a recorded vote.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my phone. I am for the budget. Can you hear me?
And those opposed? And Councilor. We'll do the 6.4, a resolution to approve the accommodation tax distribution. CFO first, or read this first? You read it first. Okay. Resolution number 2022-113, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Whereas bylaw 1952-2017 was amended so that council will allocate the percentage of revenues to each fund through resolution on an annual basis for the said year. And whereas through budget deliberations, council has determined the 2022 allocations. Now therefore be it resolved that tax collection under subsection 3.1 remitted to the tax collectors under subsection 5.2 and not refunded under section 6 is to be deposited appropriately into the supporting funds. Infrastructure reserve 80%, public safety initiative reserve 10%, economic development reserve fund 10%. Sorry, for the our CFO.
Really, the resolution kind of speaks for itself. So really, the council budget deliberations this year, the allocation is determined as 80% infrastructure, 10% public safety, and 10% economic development.
Thank you. Councilor Valentino.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting this. I like this process that it's a year-to-year thing because similar to what I was saying, budgets are year-to-year, so your priorities change, and obviously infrastructure with the amount of capital work we have is a priority. So I also am curious to see exactly what this amount will be. It's usually 500,000 we budget for, but with the amount of capital work and contractors and how hard it is to get a hotel room, that I'm thinking that this might be a higher amount, I hope, come the end of the year when we do the accommodation tax reconciliation. Thank you. I'll be supporting it.
Anyone else? No. Councilor Elwood.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Yes, I'll be supporting this as well. One of the reasons that I'm really supporting is 10%, which is nowhere near enough, in my opinion, going into economic development. If there was ever a city needs more and more economic development to spread that tax base, it's council. And without getting into detail, I know in the past, we have given a lot more of this money to other entities, I'll call it, with very little return. And at least by putting some money into the economic development, hopefully we use that money to further some of the projects that we are doing, and which will help the city long into the future. And certainly, hopefully, if Councilor Valentino is right, there's more money, hopefully than before. That'll be good for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crew.
Thanks. I also agree. I'm happy to see the 10% go towards economic development. We definitely need more economic development, or as much as we can here in Thompson. And I've been pushing for this for quite a while, so I'm glad to see it on the table here. Thanks.
Councilor Collins.
Actually, thank you, Deputy Mayor, when I reserve my comments. Thanks.
First comments. Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, 6.5. Resolution number 2022-114, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Collins. Be it resolved that council authorized administration to enter into provincial contribution agreements with the following controlled entities for 2022: Thompson Board Discovery Center, Thompson Loop, Heritage North Museum, Thompson Community Development Corporation. Councilor Valentino. Oh, we'll go to CFO. That's first.
2014, council entered into a collaboration agreement with the control entities to determine formalizing the relationship of the funding that's paid to each entity, the timing of it for their cash flow forecasting, as well as reporting requirements. Each of those kind of to the city. So these three entities would then they are included in the financial plan. So they would be getting contributions for inspired and entered into for the Safety Center and the library.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting this. Thanks for including the recycling center and the library, which are part of our contribution agreements also. I think over the years, we've kind of put a little bit more checks and balances in place with these organizations to get to these contribution agreements. And supporting this as is. I think it's important that things like the Heritage North Museum and the Royal Discovery Center, that they're starting up again. So I think that by doing these contributions, hopefully we can see a start up again after these organizations suffered dearly through COVID. Thank you.
Councilor McMurdo?
Yeah, just a brief comment to kind of echo those sentiments that I've had a few people reach out to me about the operation of both the museum and the BDC and what kind of opportunities there might be. And then noting that that was important for them as community entities. So I'll be supporting as well.
Comments? Councilor
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Pleased to see funding restored to the Royal Discovery Center.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, question, those in favor? Everybody, I don't see, Mayor Smoot, can you hear us?
Mayor Smook, the chair called for the question.
It's all right, it's passed anyway, it's not a recorded vote.
She still has to.
She's in a shining.
Can you say yea or nay? Mayor Smoot,
Oh, she's-
you in favor? Okay, program 6.6. Resolution number 2022-115, moved by Councillor Wong, seconded by Councillor Valentino. Whereas the government of Manitoba has established a fund of 15 million to provide the municipality with financial support for road reconstruction, rehabilitation, and preservation projects, including the repair and filling of potholes and road cavities. And whereas this one-time funding allocation to municipalities on a per capita basis is in recognition of the extraordinary winter and spring weather conditions that have resulted in above normal deterioration of road services in municipalities across Manitoba. And whereas the purpose of this letter agreement, the agreement is to outline the terms and conditions under the government of Manitoba's bill to provide $153,923.12 to the city of Thompson for the reconstruction and rehabilitation and preservation of its local and regional municipal roads. Now therefore be it resolved that council authorize administration to sign the letter agreement between the government of Manitoba and the city of Thompson for the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and preservation of its local and regional municipal roads for the amount of $153,923.22.
Yeah, just to note that this is a one-time grant. It's being allocated by the province of Manitoba. It was known colloquially in the news as the pothole fund. And really, it's just housekeeping to allow the administration to sign these agreements on council's behalf.
Councilor Valentino. Oh, sorry, Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question from for the administration. How much money do we spend every year for pothole repair in Thompson?
I wouldn't have those numbers at my fingertips.
So, okay, thanks. With this number, with this funding will help to offset that.
I think this would be in addition to the current budget.
But I think the thing is, even though it's called the pothole fund, it's open stuff can be used towards any road projects that fit the outline of the program here. So if it's not required for potholes, it can be used for other road type projects, as long as it meets the criteria in the funding.
Just the question, can we use it for ISEP?
I don't believe it's allowed to be used, oh, sorry. I don't believe it's allowed to be used for ISIP because that's called stacking. So then it's provincial dollars matching provincial dollars. So it's likely not allowed for that, but it can be used for other road works.
So we play with the book, we transfer to reserve and use the reserve, come back out and say, okay then.
There is a reporting requirement to the province.
All right, enough, thank you.
In reviewing that document, yeah, there was a number of things that we can do besides potholes, but there's quite the extensive reporting document that staff will have to fill out when we're done with that funding. And if we don't use it by the end of 2023, it goes away. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? We got everybody. Status. Thank you very much, everybody. Moving to bylaws. Section 7.1.
Oh, no.
Sorry, 6.7. These ones you might, are there copies?
Oh, yeah, it's on there. It's just that the agenda is different.
Stick with your resolutions.
I don't have. This last one I have.
Or just read it
Oh,
off.
wait,
right?
wait, yeah, I got this one. Sorry. We'll just keep going with all of these. Yeah. Okay, resolution number 2022-116 by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Fallon. Whereas National Indigenous Peoples' Day Planning Committee is organizing the 2022 National Indigenous Day, which will be held on June 21st, 2022 in the Queen Park. And whereas the National Indigenous Day Planning Committee has requested that the National Indigenous Peoples' Day is declared a special event and the city waive the special event license for this event. Now therefore we have resolved that council waive the special event license at a cost of not to exceed $516 and declare National Indigenous Peoples' Day a special event in the city of Thompson.
This is a request that's come forward. It was reviewed at the committee of the whole. It was recommended forward by committee of the whole for consideration by council. This is obviously a yearly, an important yearly event in our community. And the recommendation coming forward is that council consider passing this.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting this. I think this is just great to have these upcoming resolutions where we're actually going to have events again. So definitely supporting it. Kudos to Gina Spence, the TUAS coordinator. She is definitely on the ball with things. They already have their agenda set. So if you want to partake, you can go to the TUAS and MPO website. They have the whole itinerary for the day plan. So I look forward to it and I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fallon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Pleased to see this here again this year. Solstice is always the Indigenous Days Day for peoples in Canada. One of the other things I'm very passionate about is people's culture. And I believe personally that the solution to a lot of our public safety woes and some of the issues we've had with our youth is a lack of connection with culture. I believe this is one part of the puzzle to come to a solution there. So I'm very pleased and proud to step back and support supporting it. Also like to throw in a shameless plug for the Leslie Turner powwow that happens at Eastwood School. I've been there ever since they started, and it's wonderful. They put a lot of effort into it. It's UCN grads that are doing that, and it tends to attract more people than the Indigenous Day event. So I'd like to encourage people in Thompson to go and attend that as much as possible to both events and support our Indigenous population in regaining and living in their culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crew.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very glad to see this come forward. Been working hard at TUAS, especially Gina, to make this event happen. So I hope to see everybody out there, and definitely in favor of this. Thank you.
Councilor Ellsworth.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Certainly, there's that one, there's a number of others that's going to come up here tonight. We're just coming out of a 2-year pandemic, and I think along with what the other councillor said, it's good to have it. It's good to get people out and start moving around again, and certainly I would encourage everyone to attend. I try to get into all of these events, and it's amazing what you learn when you do come and you interact with other people. So I certainly will be supporting the resolution.
Any other comments? Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question for this. Why is it $516 fee? Is that involved with the rental of a building or just a event fees you got to charge?
City Manager.
It'd be the licensing or whatever fees are in the fee and fine schedule. So these are fees that council has set for events, not particularly for this event, but there is capacity for organizations if they meet certain criteria to request waiving of those.
I'd like to have a request. I think it's value to us since we have the indigenous core sign. So why don't we put all this special event into our one of the bylaws, so that way in the future is all recognized already. I believe if they do it every year, they will come and ask for requests for this anyway. So why not make into this this is a permanent event, just like a Canada Day and the Day, those kind of event. So that way, in the future, we don't have to do this every time throughout this council meeting. It's just part of the recognition.
Yep, so the administration is already working on that for the same reason, to make this part of the city's business.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 2022-117, moved by Councilor Feldman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Whereas the Canada Committee is planning for the upcoming Canada Day celebration that will take place on July 1st, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the council declare Canada Day a special event in the city of Thompson. Councilor Feldman. Oh, sorry.
Yes, same, this is another housekeeping item that comes forward every year for the request of this special event status. for national holiday.
First, let's go.
Let's just echo my comments previous. Culture is the cornerstone of a free and viable society. And this is part of it for my country and yours, and I'm glad to support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Resolution number 2022-118, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Whereas the Nickel Days Committee is planning for the upcoming Nickel Days weekend that will take place on June 24th through 26th, 2022 at the Thompson Regional Community Center, KRCC. Now therefore be resolved that the council declare Nickel Days a community event in the city of Thompson.
Yeah, again, this is another one that comes forward before council every year. This one, by having this community event status, then allows Nickel Days to run some of their activities, including their beer tent and other things are sold. And it also governs how they can sell their tickets at the gate as well as before the event.
Councilor Valentino.
I think Deputy Mayor, I'll be supporting this. Just to note to the public, they are looking for volunteers. If anyone's interested in being a volunteer or joining the Nickel Days board, you could contact Tommy Burton or check out the Nickel Days Facebook page, but they are desperately for volunteers. Thank you.
Comments? All those in favor? Everybody get? Yes. Resolution number 2022-119, moved by Councilor Fountain, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lundmark, be it resolved that bylaw 2025-2022 being a bylaw of the city of Thompson to amend the city of Thompson zoning bylaw 1891-2012 as amended is to add commercial school as a conditional use in the C-MDU zone, which shall adhere to the established bulk requirements in given second reading. Sorry. Administration, move the director.
Yeah, so someone on the public hearing tonight, again, this is a property on Thompson Drive, the developers looking to build a security and training center. The property is zoned CMU. Unfortunately, this commercial zone does not currently have commercial school as part of its use categories. So this zoning bylaw amendment would be to add commercial school as a conditional use. for the CNU zone to allow this development to proceed with construction where the security trade ceremonies. Again, no objections have been received to this.
Yeah, just to note that the public hearing was also held in keeping with the requirements of the Planning Act. And the recommendation forward would that this pass.
Councilor Paul. Mover.
No comments. Thank you.
Nope, call to question, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, resolution number 2022-120, moved by Councilor Roberto, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-2022 begin the third and final reading and the do now pass. Oh, sorry, this has to be recorded. right?
This is, yes, it has to be a recorded vote.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor as recorded votes, keep your hands up, please. Councilor Felton, Councilor Wong, Councilor Valentino, Mayor Spook, Councilor Peru, Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor McMurdo, Deputy Mayor Ledbetter. All those opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Resolution number 2022-20 or 121. Moved by Councilor Wong, seconded by Councilor Roberto. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-2022, the levy bylaw of the city of Thompson for the year 2022, be given a second reading. Administration. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, so the levy bylaw just outlines the levies that are charged to the residents. So levy for the provincial ESL, which is just for commercial properties, is 8.713. The school district levy is 20.558. The city of Thompson levy is 26.150. The business tax is 3.99%, and the special levy is $83.75 per property. Just two housekeeping things that were changed since first reading. The special levy bylaw was updated to 2006-2021 from the first reading had 2022. And the general reserve was updated to the aquatic facility reserve for this budget. To note, September 29th is the due date that's set in the bylaw as September 8th is for the banking holiday and the new reconciliation.
Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As I said earlier, I'm going to reserve my comment now, so I'm going to say that I know tonight the budget going to get passed because of zero increase budget. First, I would like to thank the administration willing to do something abnormal practice under the professional guideline to accommodate the councillors' wishes. I wish this was happened year one in this term. One of the biggest reasons I have been voted against the budget of the last 7 times, and because I knew it can be zero increase budget every year. Number been proven for the last 7 times, which is with a huge surplus at the end of the year. Second reason, and we all know, there's been a few positions is no longer required, and yet the budget continue to budget for, and I'm talking about at least $500,000 worth of the money which we can reduce to the budget, and we can done nothing, and we have done nothing about it. Third reason is the swimming pool. For the last 3 years, we got no pool to use, and yet we continue budget for $446,000 to put in the reserve for future use. To me, that is wrong, which they can be used for reducing the budget as well. This is what I take on this year's budget. I'm worried about the city is taking on too many big projects, which might has a significant impact to the taxpayer for the next few years. ICIP funding for the road and water sewer renewal, new aquatic center, wastewater treatment plant, sobering center, and the water rate rising. All this is liability to taxpayer, which is the city need to find the money for. My final point. The budget is not based on financial decision. It's based on political decision because of the election. Thank you. And I ask for the recorded vote as well. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Collins?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. Tucked into this, I've already made comments about the financial plan. I don't need to speak on that any further. I believe I was quite clear, and have been quite clear for a number of years on that. I see tucked in here at the very end, and correct me if I'm wrong, administration, the water and storm and sewer line maintenance levy has been attached to this. I thought that that was separate previously, but it is in here, if I understand this correctly, at 8375 per property. Section R of the section 2.
Okay. CFO?
Yes, so that 8375 does appear on the tax bills that you trust. It's not tax.
So, you know, my comments about the financial plan notwithstanding, a couple weeks ago when I was in here in this council chamber and trying to find out how many properties are actually outstanding with respect to repairs that this levy goes towards, I didn't get an answer. And I can't imagine I'm gonna get an answer today because the right director's not here. So be it. Perhaps administration could surprise me, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone in this room that the city of Thompson's not lived up to the bargain when it came to this levy. The backlog on this was over 200 properties, and to this day, I still hear from people who haven't had their property fixed in over 5 years. 5 years that they've been paying this levy with the expectation of having their properties fixed, and that's not happening. It's one small reason why I won't support this levy. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, call for the question, recorded vote.
Before you do that, I'll just give the opportunity to the administration if they have a number of properties. I don't believe
Oh,
that's.
sorry.
I don't have that number. I'm gonna send a request that this number be sent to all the council.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, Councilor Valentino, Mayor Swoop, Councilor Peru, Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor McMurdo, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. All those opposed? Councilor Fountain, Councilor Wong. Resolution number 2022-122, moved by Councilor Wong, seconded by Councilor McMurdo. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-2022 be given third and final reading and that it do now pass. Administration.
Just to note that it has to be recorded.
So do I go back to their CFO? Okay, thank you. Any comments? Oh, Councilor Wong. First.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to add addition another point. I want the public to aware of. To reach the zero increase budget is not because of we are reducing the expenses. We are taking money out of the reserve to make it zero. That is a very bad practice. So I should be celebrate when it's a zero, which is I always wish to have a zero. But with a good conscience, I cannot support this budget. This is one of the reasons as well. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Recorded vote. Question, all those in favor? Councilor Valentino, Mayor Spook, Councilor Peru, Councilor Ellsworth, Councilor McMurdo, Deputy Mayor Lundmark. All those opposed? Councilor Fountain and Councilor Wong. Okay, resolution number 2022-123, moved by Councilor Valentino, seconded by Councilor Ellsworth. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022, being a bylaw of the city of Thompson to amend the city of Thompson zoning bylaw 1891 to 2012 as amended to add Manitoba Hydro offices as a conditional use in the per zone PR zone, and to add Manitoba Hydro offices to be defined as office space dedicated to Manitoba Hydro and its associated day-to-day operations and programming. To use the class definition section of the zoning bylaw to be introduced and read for the first time. City manager, go to our director.
Yeah, so the public environmental reserve property zones mainly intended to protect those lands below the hydro severance line, which is typically those properties around the river. The River Lodge facility sits in the PDR zone. Manitoba Hydro has expressed interest in the facility, however, there's not a use category within the PDR zone that fits the need of what they're doing. And to kind of further add to it, any change in the PDR zone has to be approved by Manitoba Hydro as well. So it's kind of a unique situation. So after discussions with our district planner, Brett Mack, we came up with this amendment that we would create a new use category called Manitoba Hydro offices. We would add it as a conditional use to the public environmental reserve zone, and we would use that definition and then add that to the zoning bylaw as well, which would then allow Hydro to use that facility for their intended purposes. It's a single department from National Hydro that's looking at. So, like I said, Manitoba municipal relations has been involved with regards to this, and right back, and I have no concerns with this. Both of us were looking at going through first reading bylaw.
Thank you very much. Councilor Valentine, do you have any questions?
No, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Thanks for the clarification, Director Sparks. I'll be supporting this. It is a unique situation, and also based on your recommendation that there'll be the readings and the public hearing to follow after the first reading. So I'll be supporting this. Thanks.
Councilor Wong?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are we talking about just that piece of land that want to change the zoning, or the whole entire area?
It would be for any land that is zoned as PER. So similar to what we did tonight with the CMU, we added that definition to the CMU. We would add this to any zone for PER.
And I follow up, Deputy Mayor. So since we are going to do that for the PR zone, can we, instead of just putting the Manitoba Hydro offices, can I just use it as offices use of? So that way, in the future, let's say someone fall into that particular zoning, we don't have to go through this again, because that's the whole purpose anyway. What is the problem with changing the terminology instead of putting the name, now we're using as offices? That way, good for future. Is a condition used anyway? So would it be a better way to deal with this zoning?
No, because under the Churchill River diversion agreements, there are lots of restrictions on what can be done in a PER zone, which is why everything requires Manitoba Hydro approval. That's why one way to keep the thing restricted is to maintain that it be Manitoba Hydro. Now, if a developer, that doesn't stop any developer from coming forward and making that request. But at this time, that is the one development that's making the request.
And if you look at the map, typically the PER zone is basically the skirt along the river. That's all it is. It doesn't get into any of the other areas of Thompson, nor does it go anywhere north. It's really just that riverbank area around the river.
Thank you. Councilor Ellsworth?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just got a question. If there was someone else looking to change this for office space, not Manitoba Hydro, the Manitoba Hydro objected because of all the reasons you've talked about, what would happen there? We still be discussing it, or we drop like a hot turnip or potato? Or, I'm just asking, 'cause I don't know.
I believe under the agreements that Manitoba Hydro would have final decision on that. That's the way that the Churchill River diversion agreements were written. I believe in the 70s.
So let me follow up there. So, but because they're asking, it really doesn't matter if anyone else objects, they can. But really, it's almost pointless. I mean, I don't understand. It sounds like the Wolf Garden Inn, I've said it, say it the way I feel. It's confusing at the least. That someone's coming and asking us to do something that they would have, on the flip side of it, could have objected. There's nothing we can do about it because they have that. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilor Post, right?
Yeah, you're correct that the Manitoba Hydro would have that say, though they have approved a number of other developments in the area.
Councilor Collins.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm thinking of a property that we're hoping to have remediated next year, or maybe this year, but that the province currently owns. If I had a lot of money and the will, I was a few years younger, it'd be a great place for a beautiful restaurant, right on the water. And I think you can attract a lot of people there to a number of different developments. I don't know if that's in that same zone. My guess is that it is. What we're doing here on first appearance seems a bit shady, and I don't oppose it because I feel that the development needs to go forward. At the same time, I just would hope that should we run into a situation where there's an opportunity for someone to develop a similar property, that the same considerations from Hydro are given to that developer that they've given to themselves. Thank you.
Any further comments? Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Deputy. So that was one of the reasons that I tried to use the officers as a condition use rather than the company name, just to avoid the controversy in the future, in case someone try to use it and end up get rejected, exactly what Councilor else was talking about. So it's a little bit confusing as well. So anyhow, it is what it is. I think to move forward, we need to get this done. Thank you.
Any comments? Okay. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Very much, everybody. Stay with that. So 7.6, I guess, Councilor Collins.
That would be 8.
Right, 8, sorry.
Deputy Mayor. Certainly, I shouldn't likely be the person leading this. I believe all of council probably feels the same way I do. Was that Thursday or Friday? Thursday. Last Thursday, Councilor Wong, myself, and Mayor Spook were lucky to go attend the farewell party at the Thompson Recycling Center for Billy Joe Thompson and provide some recognition to Billy Joe. It was originally my intent to do that in a council meeting for the public to also see, so that Billy Joe got her recognition to a wider audience. What recognition I think she dearly deserves. Billy has done a lot for the TRC. Anyone who's been involved in that organization and seen where it started, the ups and downs there, and some of the financial troubles that location has had, can tell you that she straightened that ship and did an excellent job for the 12 years that she was there. And so I was pleased, and thank you to Councilor Long for his assistance making sure that that happened. Just would like now publicly to say thank you for your 12 years, Billy Joe. Much appreciated, and best of luck to you at Street Reach, which desperately needs someone like you to run that show as well. Thank you.
Any other comments tonight? Hearing none. Thank you all. Motion adjourned. Councilor Valentino. Anything else? Councilor Murdo, all in favor? We adjourn.